All right, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Republican Town Committee. Tonight we're continuing our Focus on Norton series where we have Dr. Jen O'Neill, who is the superintendent of Norton Schools. She'd like to speak to us. So I think everyone knows Jen, and her accreditation speak for herself. So go right ahead, Jen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hornsby. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight to present. I was asked to present a little bit about the schools themselves, and then I'm also going to spend some time talking to you about a big project that's coming up for us, which is the replacement of the Norton Middle School roof. I have been an educator here in Norton since the fall of 2003. I began as a second grade teacher at JCS. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to serve in various roles, such as the director of curriculum, the assistant superintendent for teaching and learning, and now am in my third year as superintendent. So while I may not live in Norton, Norton is definitely a big part of my life and has been my professional home for over 20 years. And so I'm thrilled to be able to present to you tonight. And please don't hesitate to ask any questions as I kind of roll through. The slides that I am sharing are available for everyone in the audience, and if there is anyone at home that would like to receive a copy, they can please just reach out and I will make sure that we get them. Maybe Mr. Hornsby, I'll share them with you as well. That'd be great. So the first thing I'm going to talk about tonight is the Norton Middle School roof. The Norton Middle School roof is a very hot topic for those of us who have been around Norton for any amount of time. The Norton Middle School was built in 1998. It is an absolutely beautiful building, but we have had issues with the roof since the building opened in the fall of 1998. Ultimately, we have documentation that goes back to the very first principal, noting on the day of the school opening that we opened today, and these are all the issues that we have, which is, of course, very frustrating, I would imagine, as a taxpayer, that we've had all of this time and the community did the right thing and built this beautiful new school, and we've had nothing but issues from the very beginning. We have documentation that shows that there were issues when it came to the installation of the roof itself. While the roof product had a long-term warranty, there were certain aspects such as the through-wall flashing that was not installed properly and therefore has been leaking since the very, very beginning. Because of that, the town and the school department has had to do repeated repairs over nearly 3 decades. I don't have an idea of the amount of money we've actually spent on repairing the roof over the years because we only have documentation for about the last 10 or so. This year alone, we've probably spent close to $20,000 just on cleaning up issues that are, entering water into the classrooms, water into the cafeteria, but unfortunately the roof is really at end of life and therefore needs to be replaced. This is a really important project for the community, but it's a really important project for our students. Right now we have about 570 students that attend Norton Middle School in grades 6, 7, and 8, and it really is distracting to their learning environment. You'll see when we get a little bit deeper into this conversation that we have classrooms, specifically those on the 3rd floor, where there were active leaks early in the year and students are learning math with a giant trash barrel right next to them where it's leaking. We want to make sure that we're maintaining healthy learning spaces. We all know that water and dampness in buildings can not just be distracting, but can cause air quality issues and long-term health issues for students. So that's something that's really important to us as well. And we want to make sure that we're protecting our building itself. Every time that we have an issue or a leak, we're taking a chance that we're ruining more of the building itself, whether it comes to ceiling tiles, the internal drywall, and then also thinking about the materials and supplies that we have in the building. We have curriculum materials, technology, laptops, all of these things that are put at risk every time we have a leak. It is really important for me to share with all of you that student safety is always our most important priority. We do air quality tests every single year and make sure that all areas of the building are clean. For example, earlier this year we had an issue with the vestibule where students come in off the buses in the morning. And it's probably 4 foot wide by about 10 to 12 feet long. And that area actually came up positive for small trace amounts of mold. So what was done at that time is we had a remediation company come out. They took the ceiling down, they remediated the entire area and put up like a temporary ceiling there, because our goal is that we're going to replace this roof in the near future. And then we did an additional air quality test to ensure that that area was now clean, which it is. And we work really closely with the staff and the administration at Norton Middle School. If there are any concerns, we immediately bring a company out to test the area. So I do want to make sure that we are clear that the school is safe. If you take a look at your packet, I have shared some pictures with you of the interior of Norton Middle School. On the front hand, on the top right is actually a picture that was shared with me earlier this week from our middle school assistant principal, Mr. Goldstein. You can see that it is the cafeteria, and there are a number of buckets and trash barrels that are lined up in the cafeteria because we do have active leaks in that space. This is something that is really challenging for us to repair. The roof over the cafeteria is a metal roof and has really rusted away, and it's getting to the point where it is not really safe to be able to put a contractor up there and to fix some of these issues. You can also see that there is one of the pictures there is at one of our math classrooms with a large bucket that was previous this fall. We have some of the drywall that is coming apart. And then you can also see the beautiful rotunda that is the centerpiece of Norton Middle School. That is also a metal roof and has a lot of rusting and peeling paint there. If you take a look at the next page, this is some of the issues that we're having on the exterior. I'm not a roofing expert. I went to school to learn how to educate students, but as you can see there are definitely areas where the roof has been damaged over the years. The membrane is thin, from my understanding. We also have a lot of brick that needs to be repointed just because of the excessive leaking and drainage issues that we've had over nearly 30 years. We are very, very fortunate that we have been accepted into a replacement program with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The Massachusetts School Building Authority partners with communities across Massachusetts to help when it comes to needed repairs or even in some cases new school buildings. The MSBA is actually funded through our sales tax here in Massachusetts. We pay anytime we go to the store and you buy a new pair of shoes or whatever you buy with sales tax, 6.25%, a portion of that funds the MSBA. And so over the years, they have supported districts with about $18 billion in reimbursements. So we had to apply to get into this program. The MSBA will not consider a project until it's at least 25 years old. So we had tried to go out prior to that 25-year mark, and we have now just been accepted, which is great for us. And what we will able to do is that they are guaranteeing us for every dollar that our community spends, they will reimburse us 55 cents on the dollar. It's a 55.63% reimbursement rate. Absolutely amazing for us. That reimbursement rate changes during each project cycle. So for us right now, we are locked in at that 55.63%. The next page shows you the initial cost estimate of what this project is going to consist of. At one point, we were having conversations about just restoring the portions of the roof that needed it. And so that would be, they would do a drone assessment where they take a look at all of the really wet areas of the roof, and they would cut out those particular areas, replace that area, and then re-roll the rubber roofing on the top. However, the more we dug into our past records, we found that the issue was with the through wall flashing and the appropriate installation of the through wall flashing at that time. So if we were to do the restoration, we would not be taking care of the primary issue. And their initial estimate was that would cost us about $9 million. So we asked them to go back to the drawing board. We said, what would it cost us to do a full replacement? Which means that every aspect of the roof would be brand new, and at the same time, they would be able to fix the through wall flashing in the brick, which were causing the issues to begin with. And so the initial estimate on that work is $11.4 million. And so I think there's a couple things that are important for us all to discuss when we're talking about that initial cost. There are ways that we're going to be able to get that cost down. If you go to the next page, I'm sharing some roof replacement data with you. So these are estimates that were done over the last few years, and it first has the initial estimated construction cost and then the total bid cost. So there was a elementary school in Melrose that initially was estimated at $1.8 million. The actual bid came in at $1.2. There was an elementary school in Wayland that initially came in at $3 million, and the actual cost was $1.9. And then there was also a middle school in Wareham, which is probably the closest when it comes to the actual square footage. That was 94,000 square feet, which was estimated at $7.5 million, and then actually came in at $3.9. So based on the MSBA and their experience, our owner's project manager, they estimate that typically what will happen is the bids will come in between 70 and 80% of the initial cost. There are also alternates within this project. For example, we have aspects of the roof that are metal. It's about 20,000 square feet is metal. And we could do it with metal, or we could do it with an asphalt roof shingle. The cost difference there, it's $1 million. It would be $1 million less to do this with the asphalt roofing shingle versus metal. And additionally, in order to be eligible to work with the MSBA, you have to show that part of your roof is solar ready. We already have solar panels on the gym roof. They were there that were installed when we first built it. There have been nothing but problems since the very beginning in terms of actual data from the solar panels, actual solar energy, and then also causing issues with the roof itself. We will not put solar panels up on the roof at all, but those things need to be included. So there are some contingency plans here that will allow that number to come down more significantly. So I did a little bit of math for you. If we figure the $11.4 million is the initial estimate, we're hoping that's going to come in between 70 and 75%. That would be a total of $8 million, and then we get that 55% reimbursement, which would bring the cost to the town down to the $4 to $5 million range, which I think is definitely an easier pill to swallow. And that does not include those items that I mentioned, like the asphalt roof or any of the other savings that we could potentially find once we get to the full design page. It's important to know that the schematic design that we have right now is only about 30% design. In order for us to be able to get into that next phase of design where they get it up to 75 to 90% in order to go out to bid, we need to be able to guarantee that we have the funding for this project. So once the funding is available, we will be able to enter the next phase with the architect and the owner's project manager to really hone in on what those possibilities will be and how we'll be able to get that number more finely tuned for all of us. I also think it's important to share that the Permanent Building Committee is really involved with this project. We met earlier this week, and they are absolutely interested in, number one, doing it the right way, because I think that's my biggest fear in all of this, is I don't want us to do all of the work that we are going to be doing in spending the money and have it not done correctly. But they're also looking at a way to do it that is a good cost for the taxpayer as well. On the next page, I talk about board support. I have 2 members of my school committee here tonight. The Norton School Committee has voted to approve this project and given their support to it. I see at least 1 member of the select board. The select board has also voted to support and approve this project, as well as the permanent building committee has voted to approve this project. And what will need to happen is, because we do not have the capacity within our actual budget to fund this right now, is that they are going to be asking the Norton taxpayer to approve a debt exclusion. Approve a debt exclusion. So a debt exclusion is a temporary increase in taxes in order to pay for a project. And once the project has been paid, that money falls off of the tax base and is returned to the previous rate. I worked earlier today with the town hall, and they have run some numbers for us. And so they went a little bit higher than I think what our actual estimate's going to be. They did 5.1 million. So if we were to pay as a community 5.1 million, the median house on a 20-year term loan would be an increase of $65.46 to the taxpayer on an annual basis. That is based on the median home cost of $565,417. And if they did a 15-year term loan, it would be an annual cost to that median taxpayer of $75.34. I was very grateful to get those numbers, because I think that's really important for us to have a conversation about, because we all need to know how it's actually going to impact families and homes. If for some reason this project is not supported by the town, what will happen is we will need to withdraw our application from the MSBA. We will no longer be eligible to move forward with the process. And what would happen is that we would need to reapply at a later date, and the reimbursement of 55.63 is not guaranteed. It is changed every year based on the number of schools that are applying through the process, the projects that are out there, and the actual amount of money that they have available from MSBA. So over the years, the Norton High School was done as an MSBA project through a debt exclusion, and then this would be as well. And so the 55.63% reimbursement rate is actually pretty great. So there would be no guarantee on that. And so I can only provide information about when things are coming up. So our annual election is on Saturday, April 11th, which there will be a vote at the ballot for taxpayers on if you would like to approve or not approve this debt exclusion. And then it would need to pass at the ballot on April 11th for us to continue conversations at our town meeting on Monday, May 18th. And in order for this project to move forward, we would need it to pass at both the ballot and at town meeting. So, and then the last page, I have just one of our future Lancers outside playing soccer. And if you really look, and as I said to somebody earlier, I'd be more than happy to share these slides with you so you can see them a little bit bigger. There are so many different sections of roof at Norton Middle School. It's very different than if we were going to do the Yale School, which was flat in the front and then pretty flat in the back. There are actually 22 different sections of roof at Norton Middle School. It was a beautiful school, very over-designed. So that does impact the cost. Yes, Paul?
Jennifer, I think we're moving forward, but what about the mistakes that were made in the past, perhaps contracts, completed operations, who was the construction? We're going to be sure that those things are buttoned up. There is a concept, and we've been an insurance guy, that completed operations, you can write into a contract how long they're going to be obligated to, if they screw up again or something happens. I mean, this looks like a real challenge, not for a Mickey Mouse roofer, but someone who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. And so that's part of the process with the MSBA. So number one, when we go out to bid, we will have a schematic design that is nearly at 100% by the time that we go out. And we are also able to put together a package that says we want these specific types of roofing. So we can specify we only want this quality or higher, that this needs to be done within a certain amount of days. We can put all of those things into our bid package so that whoever is the successful bidder needs to hit all of those criteria in order to be considered for the work itself. And that was a conversation that came up when we met with the Permanent Building Committee earlier this week, is that we want to make sure, number one, that we have someone that's extremely reputable, that is able to do this work, that we have references from other municipalities and other schools that have used them for this work, and that also the quality of the actual materials is done really well. And as you said, we can't go back and fix the issues that occurred in the past. I wasn't here that long after 1998, but ultimately there is at least 10 years of documentation back and forth between the town, the school, the OPM, the contractor, the roofer, and the quality of the material was good. It was appropriate. It just was the install that was the issue.
And of course, if it ends up in the courts, you've been waiting for a long time.
And that's what happens.
Litigation does not happen overnight.
Absolutely.
How is the one who installed it not held accountable? Like, what is it, MS, whatever you
The
said?
MSBA?
Yeah. They put money into it, won't they help you, go after the guy?
So the middle school project itself was not an MSBA project at that time. And what happened is the general contractor eventually went out of business and filed for bankruptcy. And so unfortunately, and it's, somebody made a great point the other night when I was at the Permanent Building Committee. We were building a whole school at that time. And so you're looking at the building itself, you're looking at the classrooms, the interior, all of the things that come with building a massive structure such as the middle school. And this time we'll be focusing strictly on the roof itself. And so making sure that, number one, we have the owner's project manager, our OPM that works for us, that will be there to supervise the construction, but also making sure that whatever our bid package says is that we're holding those people accountable for the work that they're doing. We have to make sure that we have it really tightened up.
But as a resident, and I know people say it's in the past, I would really want to know, the select board, the building committee, whomever was on there, why wasn't due diligence followed and checked out? And they wonder why the citizens don't trust things.
That's usually on the OPM, not on I wouldn't put that on the boards. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, and I honestly, Deb, I can't speak to that because I'm not exactly sure. We have a lot of documentation. Legal was involved at that time, but I can't speak to exactly what went down at that time.
But you're saying we're all keenly aware that if this goes, we have to make it done right.
We have to. And quite honestly, that for me is my biggest piece of this. When we looked at the restoration where we were only going to do different parts, it made me so anxious because I'm like, if we're going to spend the money, we want to make sure that we're doing this right. Like, it is so important that this project is done with transparency, it's done appropriately from a construction standpoint, and it's done in the best way to make sure that our community is getting what they paid for.
Okay. And from what I've heard and seen, I trust that that's what you're doing. However, we have an expert roofer in town. We've heard that our lawn maintenance from DPW has been up on that roof and touched it. What business does he have to be up there? That man knows nothing about roofing.
So this year, we've hired,
Wait 1 minute.
Yep.
And our expert has shown us clearly that we don't have to redo the whole roof right now when we're so strapped. He's not saying that it doesn't need to be done. He's agreeing that it does need to be done. But that we could get 3 to 5 years by spending way less money to prolong that. That's my concern. Why, like little pieces like that HVAC, don't touch it. Why would they touch that? That would save, I don't remember the numbers, incredible amounts of money. Something about the curbing on it. That's what concerns me, that we just want to go all out and take care of all of it instead of doing it in a fiduciary manner.
I certainly understand. And so this year, we've, as I mentioned, about roughly $20,000 on repairs this year, and we hired a local roofing company to come in to do that. I can't speak to how things were done previously. I can only tell you how my team has done things since I took over in this role. And I think it's really important to say, like, we're doing the best we can with the roof that we have, with what we've kind of inherited, and the money that we have to do it. I'm not, as I said, I'm not a roofer. I'm not an expert here. I know we had a lot of conversations at the Permanent Building Committee the other night, which included all of these things that you're referencing, and including the HVAC system and the curbing. And
But my problem is we have a select board member who was given that information months ago and has completely ignored it. Now we're down to what, 30 days to get this together? Why is our select board members listening to one guy blowing off a major expert who has integrity and is willing to help this town to the nth degree?
unfortunately, because we are going well, both fortunately and unfortunately, because we are going through the MSBA process, there are certain components that need to be a part of the initial bid package. And so if we were to do this on our own as a community, number one, you're taking that reimbursement right off the shelf, so you wouldn't have access to that. But because it's a state entity, we kind of have to play the game a little bit in order for our project to be approved and vetted through their system. So what will happen is once we have the funding guaranteed, and once we go through the process where we have a more complete design, we will be able to have those conversations with the OPM and with the architect and say, explain to us why this needs to happen.
All right, but that sounds backwards. The
Unfortunately.
want to know what it is, and then, because of that trust issue.
I certainly understand that, yep.
My question would then be, what is a MSBA, which components would they be forcing us to address?
So the components.
And which ones could we cut down so that number is more viable, is that the word?
Yeah.
More
Acceptable. Yep, that works. And so this project itself is for a full replacement. So they are guaranteeing us up to that 55% of the 11.4 number, which is, but I think it's like, if you're going on vacation and you're planning to maybe cook breakfast in the room, have a granola bar, bring goldfish, like you're going to Disney and you're taking your kids. You want to over budget and underspend versus overspending and not having enough money to actually pay for the trip or for the vacation. And so
what would we do with the extra money if we
it would be returned. So if for some reason they will only borrow what is needed. The town, through the vote, would only be giving the town permission to spend up to a certain amount. But what would happen is the town would only borrow the amount of money that is actually needed for the project. So that number that I shared with you earlier about the annual cost on the 20-year term or the 15-year term, that's 65 versus 75. If we had to borrow 5.1 million. If we only had to borrow 4.1 million, then that's all the town would borrow, and that number would decrease for the taxpayer. So it would not be like, hey, we're going to borrow the whole thing, and now we're going to throw money out at other projects. That money has to be specifically spent on the middle school roof and the terms that we've agreed to within the bid package. And they would If they don't need to borrow the whole amount, they would not borrow the whole amount.
That's good to know.
Yes.
That's good to know. I'm just curious, how much money did the DPW find, and is that enough to take care of the roof?
I don't believe that any funds from other reserves are able to, sorry, different buckets.
All right.
Hi.
So, what are your comments, if I understand this correctly? If we decided for whatever reason to do a partial roof replacement at the current rates that MSBA has today, and we deferred maintenance where we could, it's my understanding that down the road, 1 year, 2 years from now, the same reimbursement rate may not be available to us?
Correct. So if for some reason we decided we're only going to do X, Y, and Z with this project, we would need to go back out to the MSBA and we would need to reapply.
Is that
For
because
the
when we
remainder.
did the application, we said the whole roof?
It would only be good for a certain amount of time. So like if we decide we're only going to do, I'll say the main structure of the front of the building, and we're not going to do the rotunda or the gym or the cafeteria, we're gonna leave that off the list, we would need to go back and reapply. So, and there's no guarantee on the reimbursement. Yes, Mr. Howitt?
If I'm not mistaken, with MSBA, you would then have to go back in line.
Yes.
For the application, so there's no guarantee, once you get past this point, that you, aside from the 55%, there's no guarantee that you would be getting anything in the near future, because all the towns and cities, 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, they all apply to the MSBA for this funding.
Yes.
Okay, but we can't make our decisions based on fear. For 40 years in the school systems, I've heard the same arguments, fear-based, right? So we don't go and do the whole big thing. It's like these grants and these rules lead us around by the nose rather than us doing what's fiscally responsible, you know? So what if we decide, go back in line?
Yeah, here's the problem though, with the MSBA. If we go back in line, one, we might not get funding. Two, the reimbursement rate could go from 55% to 22%. Now we shot ourselves in the foot. The next piece of this is how much longer, we've had a leaky roof since 1998. How much longer do we want to keep going? We could possibly piecemeal it, do a $3 million now and then 5 years down the road, try to do the other $2 million. Or do we just do it all at once, get it done, fix it correctly? There, again, you know how I roll. The people in 98, whether it be the boards, the general contractor, the whoever it may be, someone was at fault, and this town should have went to bat and said, we're taking this to legal, and we'll draw it out for as long as we possibly can if we need to, because that's what would have been smart to do to protect the taxpayers. He didn't do it. There's nothing else, there's nothing we can now do. So I look at it as, I would love to get Lucas Ray, rally up 40 guys in town, jump up on the roof and finish the damn roof.
It would be fixed
That would
in
be
a
great.
minute.
That would be great. That is, I would love to live in Amish country so we could actually do that. That's not how Massachusetts works. It's simple. We cannot jump up on the roof and go and fix the roof. So we need to go through the process. So the town, basically we're asking the town to do one of two things. You either approve the project and we go through the MSBA, or if we don't want to go through the MSBA and we want to try to do it on our own, we can attempt to do that, but you have to go through the bidding process because it's a municipal project. And let's just hypothetically say we get, Joe Schmo down the road who comes in with the lowest bid, we have zero protection when that person jumps on that roof. It's, yep, that person's on the roof, they go out of business, and here we are again. So what do we want the protection from the MSBA to kind of help us out, get us the reimbursement? It's not gonna cost us $11 million, but if we have issues and it's, hey, it's gonna cost us 5.1 or 4.7, we have the money from the MSBA and we have that reimbursement rate. If that schematic design came in at $4.5 million, and all of a sudden now we're up to 5.1 or 5.3 when we open the walls and the ceiling and everything else, now the town's gonna be on the hook for even more, rather than taking the reimbursement rate. So the schematic design is high, and I think, Superintendent O'Neill said it perfectly. Like, it's high for a reason because they're playing the game. They're putting that money out there to make sure Norton is protected from a standpoint of getting the 55% reimbursement rate.
But Nick, here's my question with that. We got screwed because they went out of business. What's the MBSA gonna do when,
It's a state entity, they ain't going out of
Yeah,
business.
well, the state, MSBA is a state agency
Correct.
where a penny of your sales tax, or maybe it's a quarter of a penny or whatever.
it was a
of your
percentage.
sales
Yeah.
tax goes into this fund for schools. Once the state gets involved, now it's almost, you're secured as to who the contractors are, because the state is not going to be accepting Joe Schmo.
And that's where that,
Yes.
that's where that
Okay.
protection comes in.
So you have the state behind you as extra protection.
gotcha.
Absolutely. And I think Representative Howard's point is valid. We, all of us, as Massachusetts taxpayers, are already paying into MSBA. And we are, as individuals, are paying to build a new school in Plymouth or to put a roof on a school in Waltham. We're already paying that money. And so
You are-
we might as well take that money and use it here in Norton.
I'm trusting what you're saying.
So
I'm
let's
just
let's-
curious as
Yeah.
to why the select board, and I don't wanna say all of them, sir, but why is Mr. Kimball not taking our experts' advice?
So let's get back to the topic at hand and start, I don't wanna start blaming boards and
Well,
other
this
things
is,
like
wait a
that. I mean,
minute, wait,
Jen's
wait,
here
wait.
to talk about this project as well as what's going on with the schools. So
Okay,
let's-
but this is very relevant.
I understand.
It and it is very related. It's how we're gonna get it over the finish line.
I'm so used to running meetings and not something like this, so I don't mean to jump in on you, Jen.
No, you're
But, yeah,
good.
Let's try to
Well,
wrap up any
can
questions
I
on
just
this so we
get
can-
from our select board member, are we
Well, this
considering?
meeting, this isn't a meeting with select board. He's not representing the whole select board tonight, neither of those two for the
Just
school
don't put
committee.
him on the spot.
No, I'm fine with anybody being on the spot. You all know me, I don't care about that. Controversy is my favorite. But no, Jen, I would like to hear more about the schools and if there's any other questions about the project too.
More than happy. Ms.
Jen,
Representative
you know,
Howard?
just as a point of reference, the upkeep of the school is so important because most of these schools, the high schools now, are over $200 million.
Oh,
to put up
gosh,
a new
yeah.
school. And so you have a school that really isn't that old, so you need to maintain it. And it sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but at the same time, it's gonna cost more should major issues come up due to the leaks within the roof.
Absolutely.
And the OPM should be on it too. I mean, Waltham did a whole new school. I'm from Waltham, and they put the bleachers in that they didn't put them out. And when they extend them, they go right into the middle of the basketball court.
Yeah.
So, on a, $200 million, I think that project was?
So I'd just like to make one point clear to everybody. So when they go to the ballot on the 11th, you're going to see a question that says if you want to support this override for this.
Debt exclusion.
Debt exclusion,
exclusion,
debt exclusion, debt
The
exclusion.
debt exclusion for it. So it's a debt exclusion for it, but it's not going to have a dollar amount on it. It's just going to ask if you want to support a debt exclusion to support this roof project. It's not going to, so
Correct.
the state doesn't allow us to put a dollar amount on the ballot, so, just so you're clear about
That would be a town meeting if it passes.
it. Right, so if it passes at the ballot, then at town meeting, then they'll have all the numbers and then that's
That's
what we'll
good to
vote
know,
on.
because somebody said they want us to pass it with no numbers, and you just gave the reason why.
Yes. Paul?
I think it appears our student population is relatively stable, but you're assured, the way you're running the school department, that we're taking care of our plant. You know, in other words, if I don't take care of my house for 5 or 10 years, I'm up the creek.
Yes.
So that's another important thing that the taxpayers need to know, that we gotta get this fixed, but we're taking care of our plant.
And I think that's
The
a,
high school, it is getting older. I mean, there's a lot of high schools that age now.
yes.
And there's gonna be people lined up to, fund new schools, good luck. But, we need to take care of what we have too, so.
And I would say that the town has done an incredible job over the last 15 years taking care of our physical buildings when it comes to the schools. 2014, we did the addition and the renovation on Norton High School. It is still absolutely beautiful. It's a little crowded, but it is absolutely beautiful. A few years ago, they replaced all of the windows and the doors at all 3 elementary schools, really made those buildings a little bit more energy efficient, very safe. And then we've also done upgrades to HVAC over the last several years and our heating system. Up until 4 or 5 years ago, the Yale School was running off of steam heat. It was originally built in 1951, so we had steam radiators in those classrooms. So those have all been upgraded. And it's amazing because between the HVAC upgrades, the windows and the doors, our buildings are much more energy efficient than they were previously, which is it's just wonderful because at the end of the day, we are saving some money. And I have to say, our facilities department, our director of facilities, Mr. Lazat, our custodial team, our grounds crew, they take incredible care of our buildings. They have extreme pride in our buildings, and they're very, very clean and well maintained. And I know some people in the audience have children in the schools. Some people may be removed from that. I am always happy to give someone a tour or have you come over and see what our buildings look like because they really are a source of pride for the community. Absolutely. So, Mr. Wazza, you actually kind of gave me a little bit of a segue into my next I see what you did there. Yes, so we definitely, I'm going to talk a little bit about our enrollment trends. So over the last 10 years, we have actually seen an 11% decline in enrollment here in Norton. And that includes the students that we're bringing in for school choice. So I think that's really interesting because we've had some building in town, but the actual population of our community is getting a little bit older, and we have fewer students in schools. However, based on some enrollment trend data from NESDAQ, which is a New England group that does enrollment studies for us, we're actually projecting to see that level out over the next 10 years. And they're only anticipating a drop in like 0.2% of students. So whether that actually happens, because projections are great, but they don't always necessarily come to fruition, but that's important for us to know and understand that we really shouldn't see a big increase in students or a big decrease in students. We should be kind of level for the next few years. And then I'm also kind of sharing with you tonight our FY27 budget request. So I put together for the committee, and I always say to the school committee and really anyone that listens, is that my job as the superintendent is to present a budget to the community that represents the needs of our students. And if I'm not coming to the school committee and to the finance committee with something that is a true representation of our student needs, then I'm not doing my job as the steward of the schools. So that request is a 4.4% increase. And what I'm calling it this year is it's not a level service budget. It's really a needs-based budget because it includes 2.4 positions. One is an additional special education teacher at Norton High School. One is a 5th grade teacher at the Yale School. And then the third position is a 0.4 teacher for English language learners. And what we would do is we have a person who's a 0.6, and it would increase to a full-time position. So that's why I say it's a needs-based budget. We're kind of moving some staff around. And so when you take a look at our budget priorities, I have this little chart for you, and I'll share this out. We talk about reduced funds when we're getting less than level service is from the community, and we have to make cuts. Then we talk about level services, which is really just keeping what we have. And of course, we have contractual obligations, things increase, transportation, materials and supplies to run our buildings. We are all going to the grocery store and everything is so much more expensive these days. So it is an increased cost. And then we're really in that needs-based category, just whatever we need to actually meet the needs of our students. We're not looking at anything strategic. We're not looking at being more competitive with regional communities. We just want to make sure that we're moving ahead as much as we possibly can for our students.
Ms. O'Neill,
Yes.
I'm asking this question. Did our town manager and the finance committee tell all the boards that they need to cut?
We have been told that they're looking at either level funding or level services for this upcoming fiscal year.
The school's up by needs based.
So what I actually am presenting to the finance committee on Monday night, and so I feel it's my responsibility to say this is what we need. However, it's also my responsibility to say, if for some reason we cannot get what we need, this is the impact that it has on schools. And so for us, it is cuts and reductions, because when you take a look at, let's call it how it is, the schools have the biggest budget in town. We all know this, right? So when you're asking the school department to take a 1% cut, and you're asking, I don't want to pick on anyone, but the tree warden to take a 1% cut, it's a very big difference when it comes to what that 1% is going to be. So I will go on Monday night and I will advocate, this is what we need. However, we have been told that we need to look at level funding. So level funding for us would be a $1.6 million cut of what we're asking for here.
When you look at those cuts, are you looking at the ones, I just don't want to see cuts with direct services to the kids.
And that's really the hard part, is because for fiscal 25, we cut 29 staff positions. In fiscal 24, we cut 11. We were able to bring back a couple with some fall town meeting money, but ultimately at the end of the day, we are down 37 positions than where we were in FY23.
I know, but during those COVID years, there was funny business going on with the money, so I don't like that comparison.
Well,
Okay?
it's still 37 fewer positions. So when you,
Are they
ultimately,
direct staff, or are we cutting the coordinators and administrators? That's the kind of thing.
that's a great question.
I asked that because over 40 years of seeing this,
Yep.
the cuts, they always say, oh, sports, oh, this, just to get the parents the fear-based stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm over that.
So 1.6 million for us is probably somewhere between 8 and 10 staff people. And so we have to look across everything from preschool all the way up through grade 12. We need to look at programs that how we're servicing students. We need to look at all of these things. And
Curriculum, material.
yes, and so there's really not a lot of curriculum materials and those types of things. All of that comes from our school choice funds. So we are not really paying for any professional development, materials, curriculum, anything out of the general budget, which comes from the town. Almost everything is coming out of school choice, which is challenging, because if school choice dries up, then we have another $1 million problem. But I'm going to walk you through kind of where we spend our money, and then I'm going to show you some comparisons of other districts that are similar to us, which I hope helps kind of say, okay, like where are our funds? So for all students, general education students, every student, we have to provide 900 hours of instruction for elementary students and 990 hours for secondary students in middle school and high school. We have to make sure that we're teaching all of the required coursework, math, science, English arts, social studies. Every child needs to have physical education. That's a requirement. We need to make sure we're hitting all of those things. And then we also need to make sure that we're giving kids access to core coursework. So special subject areas, college and career readiness, all of these things are required. And then we think about our special education students. So we need to ensure that every single student, regardless of their ability, is able to access a free and appropriate education from the age of 3 all the way through 22.
Speaking of that, because I taught at a place, we won't say, where we had some out-of-district students from Norton.
Yep.
And I saw the price of what that cost, and then I saw what they were getting. Oh my God. Oh my God. So what a lot of towns are doing are bringing in a program like that
And
to meet the needs.
I don't have that
We're not
slide here.
spending ridiculous amounts of money for subpar education.
So I don't have that slide here, but it is part of our budget book when we're showing the number of students that we have that we're not able to meet their educational needs here in Norton, and that go out, and what the number of students and what that overall cost is. It also shows the number of programs that we've developed in district in the last 10 to 15 years. And so you can see, and I will share this with Mark and with Steve, so that way they can perhaps share it with their with their email list, so you can take a look at the budget book. And it shows how costs have changed since we've been able to develop programs and have students stay here in town. Number one, we want our students to be able to stay here in town if we're able to educate them, because they're with their siblings and with their peers and their neighbors and their
Teachers that care.
exactly. But there are cases where we're not able to do that, and so those cases are definitely fewer and further between than they were probably 10 years ago. We also have some really great opportunities and programs for students. We have a grant from the Department of Education for college and career technical education. We have a marketing technology program at the high school. We have a small business ownership program. We have a business and engineering technology program. We also have students that go out to Shop Fridays, and they're part of a manufacturing pathway. And they go visit sites and really get that real world experience education. We have school to career partnerships where we have a educator that helps hook kids up with internships and student work study and projects. And I know Rep. Chasen and I believe Rep. Howard were at our middle school last week or the week before visiting our civics class and talking to the students about the importance of civics in our government. And like, what a great opportunity for our students to hear directly from our own representatives about that importance. Paul?
It's my favorite topic.
Yes.
Home citizenry, you mentioned civics, is it mandated now?
Yes,
for kids
every-
to- That's good.
Yes, every grade 8 student, it's a civics course. They have a full year of civics in grade 8, which is required. And then every 10th grader must participate in a civics project. And those are really incredible to see because they pick something that they're passionate about and they share that with their peers and with the school community, which is great. Now, the next slide I have for you, it has a pie chart. And it shows you what we are spending our money on here. So the majority of our spending is on instruction. So that includes the actual educators in our classroom, special educators, and then you can see that green is pupil services, so that's special education. Orange is, what is that? I can't even see.
You look like me, look.
Oh my gosh, this is so tiny. The pink, the smallest one is administration. And when you take a look on the next page,
What's that purple one?
the purple is, yes, so that's our out of school, our out of district costs that you mentioned, money that we're spending to send students to programs for special education needs.
That includes transportation.
That does include transportation. Thank you, Justine. Yep. And on the next page, you'll see how we kind of compare to other like districts. The Department of Education gives you a list every year of dark districts. So those are districts that we compare to when it comes to a number of students, enrollment, what we spend on education, what our salaries are, our achievement data. So these are districts that the Department of Education says we're similar to. And you can see, like, when you take a look at administration, which is the first column, we have the lowest percentage of spending when it comes to administration at 2.2. I know there's a lot of conversation that we're very administration heavy in Norton. We're not, I promise you. My husband would tell you the same because I'm working all the time. So we're definitely the lowest there. When it comes to instruction, we are one of the highest. The only district that is higher than us is North Attleboro, and they're only higher than by us by about 2%. So we're definitely spending our money wisely. We're putting it towards students in instruction, which is the most important aspect of what we do. And then the next page really shows where our funding comes from. So you can take a look. Every year, the governor's budget comes out with our Chapter 70 numbers, and that's the foundation enrollment. So Norton this year, for FY26, receives $13,707,982. That is our per pupil expenditure. And we're only projected to get an increase of 1.2% for next year. It's only $157,000 is money that we're getting from the state. One of the biggest problems for Norton is that we're considered a held harmless district. So what that means is that They believe our community can afford more when it comes to financing education.
Why do they believe that?
It's based on median income, household, real estate, all of these things. And so the scary part of that is that we actually should only be taking in about $6 million from the state. But because we are held harmless, we're able to get that 13 million. So that's very scary. And it definitely, I say this and I reach out to Mike and to Steve all the time, and I think they probably hear from me often about the importance of advocating for Chapter 70 and looking at the funding formula for us here in Norton.
Are you worried this year, because with all the corruption and everything going on, I don't know how the state is going to be able to give all the towns what they need.
Well, I'm always worried when it comes to the budget, because ultimately at the end of the day, we don't have the funds that we need to give our students the educational experience that we really need. And so it is a larger issue than just Norton. We have an issue here, yes, absolutely. But this is not just a Norton issue. I have good friends who are educators in other communities. I live next door in Mansfield, and I have my own school-age children, and I live in a community that's going for an override. This is a systemic issue that needs to be addressed at the state level.
I'm curious, are the school districts getting together and making our voices heard?
Yes, not long ago.
This year, definitely.
Yes, not long ago, I met with Rep. Chasen and one of Rep. Howitt's staff members at the South Shore Superintendent's legislative breakfast. And what that was educators from the South Shore, which ironically Norton is part of, and it was our representatives, and we had people from our group present. We talked about not just funding, we talked about other issues that are out there in terms of, right now there's a bill for new graduation requirements. There's a bill on literacy that's really important to us. So all of these things that are really important to us as educators, we're constantly having conversations. And the breakfast was very, very well attended. And I hope that, you know, they were able to walk away with some new information and some good advocacy points for them to bring to the State House. And while the South Shore Roundtable did that, every single group of superintendents across the state of Massachusetts is doing the same thing. So I know Tri-County had a group of their superintendents. The Worcester County had a group of their superintendents. So we're doing the best that we can with our association to share that word. And I know that the Mass Association of School Committees is also extremely active in that advocacy.
Like you just said, your husband will say you work hours.
Yep.
Sometimes I work 12, 14 hours
Yep.
a day. It's coming to the point that something has to give.
Agreed.
They put everything on the educators, like we're everything to everybody.
And you're seeing burnout at staggering rates. Paul?
Pardon me for not knowing what's going on. Are our teachers' contract all buttoned up?
It is, yes. They ratified last week.
They're the foot soldiers of
Yes.
our system. And you being an ex-teacher, you know, I mean, you know, that's important. I mean, we get into the discussion of administration versus teachers, but we're all set with the contract, and they were quite happy.
Yes, and
Are
so,
we losing many teachers, you know, because they go to a, you know?
well, a couple different things. So number one, my father-in-law is a Marine, and he says you're never an ex-Marine, you're always a Marine. And I feel the same way about being a teacher, right? Because I'm still an educator, even though my role is very different. The best part of my day is going to classrooms and visiting with kids and being able to be there and see them. The biggest thing, and I have to thank Nick Schleicher and Justine Callahan, who are in the audience tonight. They were our representatives for our negotiation team. We negotiated for 15 months. It was an extremely long process. And one of the big things that we did two huge takeaways from this contract. Number one is we were able to change the grid so that in the previous grid, teachers, I'm going to just give you a quick Cliff Notes version. Teachers get years of service steps for their time that they've been working in a district. And then they are able to advance over columns for enhancing their education. And so the percentages between the steps from like year 3 to year 4 and year 4 to year 5 were not consistent. And so sometimes the percentage was a 3%, sometimes it was a 7%, sometimes it was very all over the place. So one of the big things that was really important to the school committee was to even that out. And so that way, over time, we would have a better opportunity to kind of project what our increases were going to be, because it should be consistent. And the other thing that we did was we eliminated the first 2 steps. So what we found was that Norton was having a really difficult time competing with area districts to get new teachers, because we were paying them $10,000 to $15,000 less than a community right nearby. So by evening out that grid and by eliminating those first 2 steps, so everyone now comes in on that 3rd step, it is going to make us so much more competitive with the other area schools that will be able to really say, hey, you might have an offer from this town or this town, but this is our offer, and we really want to have you. And there's something about staying in Norton for 23 years. The people in Norton, our educators, are extremely dedicated. They work their tails off on a daily basis. I would be proud to put my own children in any one of these classrooms. So I hope being able to offer a good financial package and being able to offer the Norton feel will allow us to really get high quality teachers, which is exciting. Of course. So I was chatting about Chapter 70. So really, the biggest part of our budget comes from local aid, so from our Norton taxpayers. And then the state aid, which is our Chapter 70. And then we have a tiny little bit of district revenue. So district revenue is fees that families pay for their children to do sports or to ride the bus, or our school choice funds that we bring in for taking students from other districts. So it's really a small piece. We do the best that we can for that, but ultimately the biggest chunk comes from our local taxpayers. But we do have a number of other funding sources that I want to make sure you're all aware of. And we do use those other funding sources to offset the budget as much as we can. So projected for FY27, as I mentioned, we have about $1.7 million worth of school choice that we're going to be using. And only 1 staff position is going to be paid out of that line. Previously, there were a number of staff positions that were in that, and I just can't, that just gives me way too much anxiety. If something happens with school choice, then you're laying off even more people than you already thought you were going to need to. So instead, we use school choice for materials and supplies, the crayons, the glue sticks, the paper. We do use it for any of our technology in our classrooms. All of those things, our licensing and our hardware, all of that comes from school choice. So we will have an issue at some point if that school choice dries up. We also have Circuit Breaker, which is a reimbursement from the state for students that are in out-of-district special education placement. So we were talking previously about that. Norton is on the hook for the first $55,000, and anything over and above that, we get a reimbursement. The reimbursement fluctuates from year to year. Right now, one of the big advocacy pieces, and I'm looking at our 2 representatives as I say this, is increasing that reimbursement from 75% to 85%. That would be absolutely huge for us. It would be a big difference for us. That also includes special education transportation as well for getting students to and from their placements. We have a facilities revolving account. That is when people come and they use our fields or they use our gyms, and we're able to backfill 3.6 of our custodial staff with that facilities revolving. We have a preschool revolving account, which is when families are sending their children to preschool, they pay a tuition. We pay for 4 staff members there. And then transportation, which goes directly to paying our transportation bill for the big yellow bus. Tuition, which is our partnership with our Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, which is such a great partnership. And then our athletics, which goes directly to paying for sports. We also have a number of grants that I shared with you as well. These are all federal entitlement grants. So special education, preschool, and then Title I, Title II, 3, and 4. Those are some programs that I am extremely worried about. The special education grant should not be going anywhere. The preschool grant should not be going anywhere. But those title grants are absolutely on the chopping block at the federal level. And for us, it's about a little under, what is it? Can't see. Yeah, 500K? Thanks. I apparently need reading glasses, is what tonight is teaching me. And so it's about a little under 500,000, but that's $500,000 for us that we are using to provide students with interventions when it comes to reading and math, provides teachers with professional development so they continue to improve their craft, et cetera. So those ones make me a little bit nervous. And then also I shared some school choice data with you tonight. So school choice is always a hot button topic. We are scheduled to start talking about it next week at school committee. And as you can see over the years, our receivables have absolutely increased. From 2020 to 2021, we had about 900,000, and then this current year we are expected to receive about 1.5 million. And the large majority of that goes right back into the budget. So more than happy to answer any other questions that you all have tonight. I know I took up a lot of your time, but you guys are always gracious hosts, so thank you so much for having me. Mark?
Hypothetical.
Love it.
Here we go.
Exactly. 750 apartments come in for MBTA.
Yep.
They go in over across from Red Mill Village, over at Norton Glen.
Yep,
That's one of the
LGN.
areas. That's one of the areas, if they can fit it, but I think they can.
Yep.
What happens? Now, we're talking about 750 apartments, more geared toward newer families that are gonna have kids. Is it anywhere on your radar?
Oh, it's absolutely on our radar.
Because that would
Yeah.
just, what would that do to the North School? I guess
It's really hard to know, right? Because 750 apartments, there is, and these are questions that I've asked at the state level, I've talked to the planning board here. It's really difficult to make a guess as to who's going to move in. Are they going to have a 3-year-old? Are they going to have a 3rd grader? Are they going to have a 13-year-old? We don't know. And so I would, you know what, if I could predict things like that, I would be a very rich woman, because I would use that to like play lottery numbers or something, I think. It's hard to know. It's interesting because right now our current kindergarten class at both LGN and JCS is one of the smallest kindergarten classes we've had in a very, very long time, which is interesting because we're starting to kind of see numbers ebb and flow. Kindergarten registration is currently open, and I don't ask the first couple weeks because you always have the families that get their registration in on day one, and then you have a lot of trickle effect. But right now it's looking to be the same. And so one of the things that we're doing right now when we're talking about potential reallocation of positions is saying, okay, where do we have these smaller groups that we can take classroom or positions and move them to somewhere else where they're needed? So we're really trying to look specifically at that. But I think it's really difficult to predict what that might look like, but it is 100% on our radar. We recently just finished a district alignment study where we had a group come out to Norton and look at our enrollment, look at our mapping of where our students are. The JCS LGN line has been the same for a number of years. Do we need to move that line based on current projects? Based on current projects and enrollment, no, we don't. But we can only predict out really probably 5 years, and then we'll have to look at it again. That was a very long-winded way of saying I have no idea.
But it's on the back of your mind, it's on your radar.
It's absolutely on our radar, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I was cutting you off, that's all I was saying. No, I'm just kidding.
You can give me the hook. Thank you all so much for having me. I really, truly appreciate it. I am going to send both the slides and then our budget book to Steve and Mark, and hopefully you guys would be willing to share it out so that way people can have access. And I'll also, at that same time, include my email address. So please do not hesitate to reach out. I know that oftentimes there's so much conversation on social media that it's really challenging to know what's real. Huh? No, but my point is, please come and ask me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone at any time and really give you the facts. So thank you all. Have a great night.
All right, thank you all for coming. Anybody who came in late, just check in with Mark, because we're keeping a list of who came to our meeting before. If you'd like to join the Republican Town Committee, you can contact myself or Mark Sweeney directly. I think I have his home and cell phone number here I'm gonna give out. All right, well, thank you all for coming, appreciate it.